She was devastated, not just by the loss but by the deception. I smiled at the memory. One day, while I was cleaning her study, she was on the phone with her financial advisor, who was patronizing her terribly. After she hung up, she was in tears. I hesitated, then offered some advice about restructuring her investments. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head, but she was desperate enough to listen. "You helped her with financial advice?" Robert asked while cleaning her house. "I did, and it worked. Over time, I helped her rebuild her financial security. Martha never saw me as just a cleaning lady. She saw me as a person with valuable knowledge who happened to clean her home. That's the difference, Robert. Some people see the job, others see the human being doing the job." Vanessa shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "So all this time when my parents and I were looking down on me, I finished for her." "Yes, I noticed, just as I noticed when you began to reconsider those attitudes recently." "I feel terrible," she said quietly. "The things I said to my mother about you, the Target handbag." I smiled. "That was deliberate, by the way. I have plenty of designer options." Robert ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so like his father it made my heart catch. I don't know how to process all this. I feel like my entire childhood was some kind of, social experiment. Not an experiment. I corrected a different kind of education. I could have given you everything, Robert. A trust fund, an expensive private school, connections to launch your career. But would you be the same person you are now? Would you have the same work ethic, the same appreciation for what you've earned? "Probably not," he admitted reluctantly. "Definitely not," I said. "I've cleaned the homes of many wealthy families. I've seen what happens to children who never face adversity, who are handed everything without earning it." "Ah," Vanessa looked thoughtful. "My brother," she said suddenly. "He's 34 and still living off my parents. 3 failed businesses that Daddy funded. No consequences, no real growth." I nodded. "Exactly. That's what I wanted to protect. You from Robert." "So what happens now?" he asked. "Are you going to stop cleaning?" "I've been considering scaling back," I admitted. "Keeping just a few long-time clients like Martha Whitmore. My investments require more attention these days." Robert stood again, pacing the office. "I just can't believe you own the Peterson building. I negotiated that lease for weeks thinking I was getting a good deal." "You were," I assured him. "I instructed the property manager to treat Summit Marketing like any other tenant. No special favors except for the tenant incentive program that miraculously appeared when I needed it," he pointed out wryly. "Well, perhaps one small favor," I conceded. Vanessa had been quiet, but now she looked directly at me. "Does this change our wedding plans? Do you still want me to buy that dress for you?" I laughed. "Actually, I already have something in mind, but I appreciate that you're asking now rather than telling." She flushed. "I deserve that." "I'm sorry, Eleanor. Truly, it's forgiven," I said sincerely. "We all make mistakes. What matters is how we learn from them." Robert moved to stand beside me. "All this time, I thought I needed to make something of myself to make you proud, to somehow make up for all your sacrifices." I stood and took his hands and mine. "You have made me proud, Robert, not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you are. Your kindness, your determination, your integrity, those things can't be bought." He pulled me into a tight hug, and over his shoulder I could see Vanessa watching us with new eyes, seeing not the cleaning lady and her son, but a successful businesswoman and the child she had raised with intention and purpose. The next few weeks brought significant changes. Robert, armed with the knowledge of my financial backing, grew more confident in his leadership of Summit Marketing. He negotiated more aggressively with clients, knowing he had solid financial footing if a deal fell through. Vanessa, to her credit, made genuine efforts to adjust her perspective. She invited me to lunch at her favorite restaurant, asking thoughtful questions about my business strategies and investment philosophy. When the waiter treated me dismissively, assuming Vanessa was the one with the financial means, she corrected him firmly. "Actually, my mother-in-law will be paying today," she said, gesturing to me. "She owns this building, among others." The waiter's expression was priceless. As the wedding approached, I decided it was time to have a conversation with Dr. and Mrs. Taylor. I invited them to my downtown office, the elegant corner suite I rarely used, but maintained for business meetings. My assistant, yes, I had one, though Robert never knew, greeted them with professional courtesy and showed them in. Dr. Taylor's face registered shock when he saw me seated behind the massive desk. "Eleanor, what is this? Where's Miss Phoenix?" "I am Miss Phoenix," I replied calmly. "Eleanor Phoenix Greene, founder and CEO of Phoenix Holdings. Please have a seat." Mrs. Taylor sank into a chair, clearly stunned. Dr. Taylor remained standing, his expression cycling through confusion, disbelief, and finally weariness. "I don't understand," he said. "You're a cleaning woman." "I am a woman who cleans," I corrected. "I'm also the primary investor in your daughter's fiancé's company, the owner of the building where your hospital's administrative offices are located, and a major donor to 3 medical research foundations that support your department." He sat down heavily. "This is impossible. No, just improbable," I replied. "I found that people rarely look beyond the surface. When they see a woman in a cleaning uniform, they see only that, not the person wearing it. Certainly not a potential business competitor." "Why are we here?" Mrs. Taylor asked, regaining her composure somewhat. "Because we're about to become family," I said, "and I thought it was time we understood each other. Robert and Vanessa know the truth about my financial situation now. I wanted to ensure you heard it from me directly, rather than through them." Dr. Taylor leaned forward. "So all this time when I was condescending, dismissive, treating me as socially inferior," I offered. "Yes, I noticed." His face reened. "I never intended." "Yes, you did," I interrupted gently. "And that's precisely why I wanted this meeting. Not to embarrass you, but to help you understand something important about your daughter's future husband." Mrs. Taylor looked up. "What about Robert?" "He was raised by a mother who cleaned houses for a living." I said, "That experience shaped his character, his values, his work ethic. The fact that I also happen to be wealthy doesn't change the fundamental truth that Robert comes from humble beginnings and he's better for it." Dr. Taylor nodded slowly. "I see your point and I owe you an apology clearly." "Accepted," I said. "Now, about the wedding. I understand you've generously offered to pay for most of it." "We have," Mrs. Taylor confirmed. "It's tradition after all." "I'd like to contribute," I said. "Perhaps I could cover the venue costs. The Carter Museum is lovely, but I happen to own a boutique hotel downtown with a stunning rooftop garden. It would make a breathtaking setting for the ceremony." Dr. Taylor's eyebrows shot up. "You own the Emerald Plaza Hotel, among others," I confirmed. "The reception could be held in the Grand Ballroom, my gift to Robert and Vanessa if they're amenable." The Taylor exchanged glances, clearly recalibrating their understanding of the situation. "That's extremely generous." Dr. Taylor finally said, "It's what family does," I replied. "Which brings me to my final point. I understand you've been concerned about Robert's ability to provide the lifestyle Vanessa is accustomed to. We only want what's best for our daughter," Mrs. Taylor said defensively. "Of course. And I want what's best for my son. The difference is that I believe what's best for Robert is to make his own way without relying on my wealth. I hope you'll respect that approach, even if it differs from your own parenting philosophy, Doctor." Taylor frowned. "Are you saying you won't be supporting them financially?" "I'm saying I'll support them in ways that don't create dependence," I clarified. "I've already invested in Summit Marketing because it's a sound business decision, not because Robert is my son. Beyond that, they need to build their life together on their own terms." "Even if that means Vanessa has to adjust her expectations?" Mrs. Taylor asked, a challenge in her voice. Especially then, I replied evenly. The most valuable gift we can give our children is the ability to find happiness, regardless of their bank balance. The conversation continued for another hour, touching on business, parenting, and eventually finding common ground in our shared hope for Robert and Vanessa's future. By the time they left, the Taylor were regarding me with a new respect, not because of my wealth, but because they finally saw me as an equal. That evening, Robert called. "Did you really invite my future in-laws to your office just to tell them you own half of downtown Denver?" I laughed, not quite half, and it was a necessary conversation. "Well, whatever you said worked. Dr. Taylor just called me and actually apologized for trying to push me out of my CEO position. He said he'd misjudged me based on limited information." "Good," I said. "And what about the hotel for the wedding? Is that something you and Vanessa might want to consider?" "Are you kidding? Vanessa's over the moon about it. The Emerald Plaza is one of the most exclusive venues in the city. She's already talking about the garden ceremony at sunset." "I'm glad she likes the idea," I said. "And I hope you do too." "I do," he assured me, "though it's going to take time to get used to all this." "My mum, the secret millionaire, multi-millionaire," I corrected teasingly. "If we're being technical," he chuckled, then grew serious. "Mum, thank you not just for the hotel, but for everything, for working so hard all those years, for teaching me what really matters." "You're welcome, sweetheart," I replied, my throat tight with emotion. It was worth every minute. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, my relationship with Robert and Vanessa evolved in unexpected ways. Rather than treating me differently because of my wealth, they seemed to value me more for the person I'd always been, the hard-working, principled woman who happened to clean houses for a living. Vanessa particularly underwent a transformation. She asked thoughtful questions about my experiences cleaning for wealthy families, genuinely interested in the perspective it had given me. "Did they really never notice you listening to their business calls?" she asked during a wedding planning session. "Almost never," I confirmed. "It's remarkable how invisible service workers become in certain settings. It's as if the uniform erases the person wearing it." She nodded thoughtfully. "I was like that. I'm sorry. You're learning," I assured her. "That's what matters." The most surprising development came when Vanessa asked if I would continue my cleaning business after the wedding. "If you want to, I mean," she clarified quickly. "Not that you need to, obviously, but if it's something you enjoy." "I'm cutting back," I explained, "keeping just a few long-time clients." "Why do you ask?" She hesitated. "I was thinking maybe I could come with you sometime, learn what it's like. I feel like I've lived in such a bubble, and Robert speaks so highly of what your work taught him." I smiled, genuinely touched by her request. "I'd like that, Vanessa, very much." The day before the wedding, Vanessa joined me at Martha Whitmore's house. I provided her with a cleaning apron and gloves, showing her how to properly mix cleaning solutions and efficiently tackle each room. "The secret is to work systematically," I explained, "top to bottom, left to right. That way you never miss anything." She listened attentively, following my instructions with surprising dedication. When Martha arrived home early and found us polishing the dining room table together, she didn't bat an eye. "You must be Vanessa," she said warmly. "Eleanor's told me all about you. Congratulations on your wedding tomorrow." "Thank you, Mrs. Whitmore," Vanessa replied, looking somewhat sheepish in her cleaning attire. "I'm just learning from the best." Martha's eyes twinkled as she glanced at me. "That you certainly are in more ways than you might realize." Later, as we drove home, Vanessa was quiet, contemplative. "What are you thinking?" I asked. "That I've been judging people by completely meaningless standards," she replied. "Mrs. Whitmore treated us both with the same respect, even though I was clearly a novice cleaner. My mother would have been mortified to see me cleaning someone's house." "Different perspectives," I said. "Neither entirely right nor wrong, just different." "No, you're wrong there," Vanessa said firmly. Some perspectives are better than others, more humane, more just. I want to be more like you, Eleanor, seeing people for who they are, not what they do or what they own. I reached over and squeezed her hand. That might be the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. The wedding day dawned clear and perfect. The rooftop garden of the Emerald Plaza Hotel was transformed with flowers and twinkling lights. Guests began arriving, a mix of Denver's social elite and Robert's more modest connections from his childhood and career. I wore a designer gown in soft blue, elegant without being ostentatious. When Robert saw me in the preparation suite, his eyes widened. "Mom, you look incredible," he said, adjusting his tie nervously. "Very different from your cleaning uniform." "But still me," I replied, straightening his tie for him. "The clothes don't make the woman remember." He nodded. "I remember everything you taught me, especially now." As I took my place in the front row, I noticed a few surprised glances from guests who had known me only as the cleaning lady. Martha Whitmore caught my eye from across the aisle and gave me a knowing wink. She'd kept my secret all these years, understanding that my choices were my own. The ceremony was beautiful, with Robert and Vanessa exchanging vows against the backdrop of Denver's skyline. During the reception, Dr. Taylor approached me, champagne in hand. "Your son is a remarkable young man," he said. "You raised him well." "Thank you," I replied. "Your daughter is quite special too. She's grown a lot recently." He nodded. "Yes, she has. She told us about cleaning Mrs. Whitmore's house with you yesterday. Catherine, my wife, was horrified at first." He chuckled. "But Vanessa was so enthusiastic about what she'd learned, not just about cleaning, but about perspective. I think you've been a good influence. We all influence each other," I said diplomatically. "That's what family does." Later, during the father-daughter dance, I watched Vanessa and Dr. Taylor moving gracefully across the floor. Robert came to sit beside me. "Happy?" I asked. "Very," he confirmed. "Though I'm still processing everything that's happened these past few weeks. Finding out my mum is secretly one of Denver's biggest property owners is a lot to take in." I laughed. "Just think of me as the same mum who packed your lunches and taught you to tie your shoes. The bank balance doesn't change who I am." "I know that now," he said seriously, "and I'm going to make sure I never forget it." The band started playing a slower song, and Robert stood offering me his hand. "Dance with me." As we moved across the dance floor, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought us here. From those early days of cleaning houses to put food on the table to secretly building my empire while raising a son who understood the value of hard work and integrity. "What are you thinking about?" Robert asked. "About choices," I replied, "and how they shape us. I chose to keep cleaning houses even after I didn't need to financially. You chose to start your own business rather than rely on connections or shortcuts. Vanessa is choosing to reconsider her values and prejudices. And that's why you revealed everything when you did. He realized you wanted to see what choices we would make. I wanted you to have all the information necessary to make the right choices," I corrected. "And you did." As the song ended, I saw Vanessa approaching, radiant in her wedding gown. She hugged me warmly, no longer the privileged young woman who had once been embarrassed by her fiancé's cleaning lady mother. "Thank you for everything, Eleanor," she said sincerely, "for raising such an amazing son, for teaching me what really matters, and yes, for the spectacular wedding venue." She grinned, glancing around at the elegant ballroom. "You're family now," I replied simply. "This is what we do for family." Later that evening, as the celebration continued around us, I found a quiet moment alone on the rooftop garden. The city lights spread out below me, including several buildings that belong to Phoenix Holdings. All those years of listening and learning, investing and building had created this legacy, not just of wealth, but of values that would continue through Robert and perhaps someday through his children. Beautiful view, isn't it? A voice beside me made me turn. It was Martha Whitmore, elegant in her evening wear, quite different from the casual clothes she wore when I cleaned her home. One of the best in the city. I agreed. "I remember when you first told me about buying this hotel," she said. "You were scrubbing my kitchen floor at the time." I laughed. "Those were the days. You never wanted recognition," Martha observed. "All these years, all that success, and you kept right on cleaning houses." "The work kept me grounded," I explained, "reminded me of what's real, what matters." She nodded in understanding. "And now, will you finally retire the cleaning apron?" I considered the question, watching as Robert and Vanessa danced, their faces alike with joy. "Perhaps," I conceded. "Though I might keep a few special clients," Martha smiled. "I'd be honored to remain on that list, always," I assured her. "Some connections are too valuable to give up." As the evening drew to a close and guests began to depart, Dr. and Mrs. Taylor approached me one last time. "We underestimated you, Eleanor," Dr. Taylor said frankly. "I hope you can forgive our narrow perspective." "Already forgotten," I replied graciously. "We're family now after all," Mrs. Taylor hesitated, then asked. "Will you continue your cleaning business?" The question wasn't asked with judgment, but with genuine curiosity. Perhaps on a limited basis, I said. "The work itself has value regardless of whether I need the income." She nodded slowly, processing this concept that clearly challenged her worldview. "I think I'm beginning to understand." As they walked away, Robert joined me again. "Ready to go, Mum? The car is waiting to take you home." "Actually," I said, making a spontaneous decision, "I thought I might stay at the penthouse tonight. It's silly to drive all the way home when I have a perfectly good suite upstairs." Robert's eyes widened. "The penthouse is yours too." "Of course," I replied with a wink. "I own the hotel, remember?" He shook his head, laughing. "I don't think I'll ever get used to this." "You will," I assured him. "Just remember, regardless of where I sleep tonight, in a penthouse suite or our family home, I'm still the same person. The cleaning lady who raised you, who taught you the value of hard work and integrity." "The best cleaning lady in Denver," he agreed, hugging me tightly. "And don't you forget it," I whispered, holding my son close one last time before he left with his new bride to begin their life together. A life built on a foundation of truth, respect, and the understanding that a person's worth never depends on their job title or bank balance. That foundation, I knew, was my true legacy, far more valuable than any property or investment portfolio could ever be. 6 months after the wedding, I found myself in an unexpected position, sitting in the boardroom of Emerald Ventures, openly discussing investment strategies with a team of financial analysts. Robert sat beside me, no longer shocked by my business acumen, but proud to be working alongside his mother on a new joint venture. The transition from secret millionaire to public businesswoman hadn't been entirely smooth. Some of my cleaning clients were confused or embarrassed when they learned about my financial status. A few even stopped hiring me, uncomfortable with the shift in perceived power dynamics. But the ones who mattered, like Martha Whitmore, simply laughed and said they'd suspected all along. "Eleanor, we need to discuss the Madison Street development," said James Holloway, my longtime financial advisor. "The City Council is requesting additional green space before approving the permits." I nodded, reviewing the plans spread across the table. "We can reconfigure the southeastern corner to include a community garden. It would reduce our rentable square footage by approximately 8%. But the goodwill and expedited approval process would offset the loss," Robert chimed in. "Plus, it aligns with Summit's new environmental initiative. We could partner on the marketing campaign, highlight the sustainability aspects." "Excellent point." I agreed, feeling a surge of maternal pride at how naturally Robert had taken to the business side of property development. His marketing expertise brought a fresh perspective to our projects, while my years of experience provided the foundation. After the meeting, Robert and I walked to a nearby cafe for lunch, something that had become our weekly tradition. As we settled at a corner table, he brought up a subject I'd been expecting. "Mum, Vanessa and I have been talking. We're thinking of starting a family soon." I smiled, hiding my emotional reaction behind my menu. "That's wonderful news. You'll both be excellent parents." "Thanks." He hesitated, stirring his coffee absently. "But it's made us think about what kind of values we want to pass on to our children. The work ethic, the perspective you instilled in me, but without some of the complications." "Complications?" I raised an eyebrow. "The secrecy," he clarified, "not telling me about our financial situation for all those years. I understand why you did it, and I'm grateful for the lessons, but sometimes I wonder if there could have been another way." I set my menu down, giving his concerns my full attention. That's a fair question. Looking back, would I do some things differently? Probably. But parenting doesn't come with a manual, Robert. I did what I thought was best with the perspective I had at the time. "I know," he assured me quickly, "and I'm not criticizing. I just want to learn from both what you did right and what might have been less ideal. The greatest gift you can give your children isn't financial security," I said after a thoughtful pause. "It's the tools to build their own security, internal and external. If I succeeded in giving you those tools, then any missteps along the way were worth it." He nodded, then changed the subject slightly. "Vanessa has been really different since everything came out. Did you know she's volunteering at a women's shelter downtown teaching financial literacy classes?" This genuinely surprised me. "No, I didn't know that. She says your story inspired her. A woman building wealth while working in a field others look down on. She's trying to help women see possibilities beyond their current circumstances." I felt an unexpected lump in my throat. That's quite meaningful, Robert." "Yeah, it is." He grinned. "Though she still can't operate a vacuum cleaner properly, that one cleaning session with you didn't quite take." We both laughed, the momentary tension dissolved. As we finished our lunch, Robert mentioned that he and Vanessa were hosting a dinner party that weekend. "Nothing fancy," he assured me. "Just a few friends and some of Vanessa's family. Her parents will be there. I'd really like you to come." "Of course," I agreed. "Should I bring anything?" He hesitated, then said with careful casualness, "Just yourself, though. Maybe not in your cleaning uniform this time." I raised an eyebrow. "Are you embarrassed by my work, Robert?" "Number God, no." He flushed. "It's just, now that everyone knows about your business success, it seems I don't know. Like you're hiding behind the uniform somehow." "Interesting perspective," I amused. "But cleaning isn't a disguise for me, Robert. It's part of who I am, just as much as being CEO of Phoenix Holdings." He looked chastened. "You're right. I'm sorry. Wear whatever makes you comfortable." The night of the dinner party, I chose a middle path. Elegant but understated business attire, rather than my cleaning clothes or high-end designer wear. When I arrived at Robert and Vanessa's condo, they'd kept the Monarch unit despite knowing about my ownership. Vanessa greeted me warmly. "Eleanor, I'm so glad you could make it." Her welcome seemed genuine, a far cry from the barely concealed disdain of our early encounters. "Come in, everyone's in the living room." The gathering was intimate. Robert's colleagues from Summit Marketing, a few of Vanessa's friends and her parents, Dr. and Mrs. Taylor approached as soon as they saw me. Their demeanor markedly different from our previous interactions. "Eleanor, wonderful to see you, Doctor," Taylor said, offering a cocktail. "I was just telling Robert about a potential client for Summit. The medical device company I consult for is looking to refresh their brand." "That sounds promising," I replied, accepting the drink, though I try not to meddle too much in Robert's business decisions these days. "Unlike some people," Mrs. Taylor said with a pointed look at her husband, who had the grace to look sheepish. The dinner conversation flowed naturally, touching on business, local politics, and art. I noticed how Robert and Vanessa functioned as true partners, each deferring to the other's strengths and supporting their initiatives. When the topic turned to real estate, Dr. Taylor asked about my latest project. I understand you're developing that old factory complex on River Street. Yes, I confirmed. We're converting it to mixed use, affordable housing, community spaces, and small business incubators. Phoenix Holdings is partnering with the city on the initiative. Sounds more philanthropic than profitable, he observed. The two aren't mutually exclusive, I replied. Sustainable communities create sustainable returns, just on a longer timeline than most developers are comfortable with. Vanessa leaned forward, genuinely interested. Is that the project you're using for the apprenticeship program you mentioned? I nodded, pleased, she remembered. Yes, we're training people from underserved communities in construction and property management, creating pathways to careers, not just jobs, including former cleaning staff, Robert added, with a smile in my direction. Mum's offering specialised management tracks for service workers looking to advance. The genuine admiration in his voice warmed me. He had truly come to appreciate the value of all work, regardless of society's hierarchical views. After dinner, as guests mingled over coffee and dessert, Mrs. Taylor sought me out on the balcony, where I'd stepped for a moment of quiet. I owe you an apology, Eleanor, she said without preamble, a more substantial one than I've offered previously. I turned to face her, surprised by her directness. That's not necessary. It is, she insisted. I judged you solely on your occupation, never considering who you might be, that it was narrow-minded and frankly beneath the values I claim to hold. Her candour was unexpected and appreciated. Thank you for saying that. Vanessa has changed since your revelation, she continued in ways I wouldn't have predicted. She's questioning assumptions she's held her entire life, assumptions Catherine and I instilled in her. Growth often requires questioning our foundations, I offered. It doesn't mean rejecting them entirely. She nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps, but I've been doing some questioning of my own lately. 25 years running an interior design firm catering to Denver's elite, and I'm not sure I've made the impact you have through your cleaning business and quiet investments. Different paths, different impacts. I said, your design work brings beauty and function to people's lives. That has value. You're gracious. She replied with a small smile. More so than I deserve given how I treated you initially. We stood in companionable silence for a moment, watching the city lights. Finally, she asked a question that surprised me with its insight. Do you ever miss the anonymity? Being underestimated gave you certain advantages in business, didn't it? I considered this. It did. People reveal more to someone they perceive as harmless or irrelevant. That information proved valuable countless times. But now I'm discovering the advantages of visibility. I admitted the ability to influence openly rather than from the shadows, to serve as an example for others facing similar prejudices about their work. Our conversation was interrupted by Robert calling everyone together for a toast. As we rejoined the group, I noticed Vanessa whispering something to him, looking nervous but determined. He nodded encouragingly. Everyone, Robert announced, raising his glass. Thank you all for coming tonight. Vanessa and I have some news we'd like to share. The room quieted in anticipation. Vanessa stepped forward, took a deep breath and said, We're expecting. Baby Greene will be joining us in about 7 months. Congratulations erupted around us. Mrs. Taylor embraced her daughter tearfully, while Dr. Taylor shook Robert's hand with obvious pride. When it was my turn, I hugged them both, too overwhelmed for words momentarily. Congratulations, I finally managed. I'm so happy for you both. We have something else to ask you, Robert said, keeping his arm around Vanessa. We've been talking about our living situation, and with the baby coming. You need a bigger place, I guessed. I can help you look for something suitable. Vanessa shook her head. Actually, we've been talking about your house, the one you raised Robert in. It's in a great school district, has a yard for children to play in. We're wondering if you'd consider selling it to us, Robert finished. At fair market value, of course, no special treatment. I blinked in surprise. My house, but it's so modest compared to the Monarch and further from your offices. That's partly the point, Vanessa explained. We want our child to grow up with the values you instilled in Robert, understanding the difference between needs and wants, appreciating what they have rather, than always reaching for more. Besides, Robert added with a grin, when the CEO of Summit Marketing decides to work remotely 2 days a week, who's going to argue? I was deeply touched by their request and the reasoning behind it. If you're sure that's what you want, we can certainly discuss it. Though, where would I live? We thought of that too. Vanessa said, there's that penthouse at the Emerald Plaza you never use. You could make it your primary residence, be closer to your downtown operations. Their thoughtfulness, considering not just their needs but mine as well, demonstrated how much they had both grown. Let me think about it, I replied, not wanting to make such a significant decision on an emotional evening, but I appreciate the offer. Later, as the party wound down and guests began departing, Robert pulled me aside for a private moment. Mum, there's something else I wanted to discuss with you. Something about the baby. Oh, I prompted when he hesitated. If it's a girl, we'd like to name her Eleanor, he said softly, after the strongest, wisest woman we know. I felt tears spring to my eyes before I could control them. Robert, I'm incredibly honoured. We want our daughter to grow up knowing her grandmother's story, he continued. How you built a business empire while scrubbing floors. How you valued the dignity of all work. How you never stopped learning and growing no matter what obstacles you faced. Those are lessons worth passing down. I agreed, composing myself, though perhaps with fewer decades of secrecy. He laughed, definitely with less secrecy, but with all the determination and principle. As I prepared to leave, Vanessa approached with a somewhat awkward expression. Eleanor, I have a strange request. What is it? I asked curiously. Would you be willing to teach me how to properly clean a house? She rushed on before I could respond. Not because I expect to become a professional or anything, but because I want to understand what you did all those years. I want to appreciate the skill and knowledge involved, not just theoretically, but practically. Her request was so unexpected and sincere that it touched me deeply. I'd be happy to, Vanessa. It's not as simple as most people think. I know, she said earnestly. When I tried to help you at Mrs. Whitmore's house, I realized how little I knew about something so fundamental. If I'm going to teach my child, your grandchild, about the value of all work, I should understand it myself. Her growth from the privileged, somewhat dismissive young woman I'd first met to this thoughtful, self-aware person was remarkable. We'll start next weekend, I promised. Bring old clothes and prepare to work harder than you ever have in an interior design consultation, she laughed. I'm looking forward to it genuinely. On the drive home, I reflected on the evening's revelations. My grandchild would grow up knowing me as both Eleanor, the cleaning lady, and Eleanor, the business mogul. They wouldn't experience the artificial separation between these identities that Robert had. Perhaps a healthier integration of understanding that a person's worth transcends both their profession and their financial status. The following weekend, true to my word, I arrived at Robert and Vanessa's condo with cleaning supplies and a no-nonsense attitude. Vanessa had dressed appropriately in old jeans and a t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. First lesson, I announced, setting down my caddy of supplies. Cleaning isn't just about making things look nice, it's about understanding materials, chemistry, efficiency, and attention to detail. For the next 4 hours, I guided her through a thorough cleaning of their condo. I showed her how different surfaces require different approaches, how to clean systematically to avoid missing areas, how to protect her body from strain while working efficiently. To her credit, Vanessa was an attentive student. She asked thoughtful questions and didn't shy away from the less pleasant tasks. When we finished, she collapsed onto the sofa, exhausted but satisfied. I had no idea it was so complex, she admitted, or so physically demanding. You did this for 30 years and still do occasionally, I reminded her, though less frequently now. She shook her head in wonder. When I think about how dismissive I was, how I thought it was unskilled work anyone could do. Many people share that misconception, I said, sitting beside her. It's why service work is undervalued and underpaid, despite being essential to society's functioning. I get it now, she said sincerely. And I want to make sure my child gets it too, no matter what privileges they grow up with. Over the following months, our relationship deepened in unexpected ways. Vanessa continued her cleaning lessons, gradually improving her skills while developing a genuine respect for the profession. Meanwhile, I helped Robert navigate the challenges of balancing his growing business with preparing for parenthood. As Vanessa's due date approached, I made a decision about their request to purchase my house. After careful consideration, I invited them over for dinner to discuss it. I've thought about your offer, I told them as we sat in the living room where Robert had grown up. And I have a counter-proposal. They exchanged curious glances. I'm not going to sell you this house, I continued. I'm going to gift it to you to my grandchild, technically with you as trustees, until they're of age. Mum, we can't accept that, Robert protested. It's too generous. Let me finish, I said firmly. This gift comes with conditions. First, you'll make a donation equal to the home's value to the apprenticeship program at Phoenix Holdings. That money will help others build their own paths to financial security. Vanessa nodded thoughtfully. That's a meaningful approach. Second, I continued, you'll establish a trust for your child that doesn't grant unrestricted access to funds until they've demonstrated financial responsibility, perhaps through education, employment, or community service. Similar to how you handled my upbringing, Robert observed, supporting without spoiling. Exactly. And finally, you'll both commit to volunteering regularly with the Foundation for Service Workers I'm establishing. I want my grandchild to grow up seeing their parents demonstrating the values you want to instill, not just talking about them. They considered my proposal seriously, conferring quietly before responding. We accept, Robert said finally, with one addition of our own. We want you to maintain a room here to stay connected to this home and to us. This shouldn't be about you moving out so we can move in. It should be about expanding our family circle. Their thoughtfulness touched me deeply. I'd like that very much. 2 weeks later, Vanessa went into labour 3 weeks early. Robert called me at 2 a.m, his voice a mixture of excitement and panic. I met them at the hospital, providing calm support as they navigated the intensified birth plan. After 14 hours of labour, Eleanor Greene entered the world, tiny but healthy, with a full head of dark hair and her father's determined expression. When the nurse placed her in my arms for the first time, I felt an overwhelming sense of continuity, of lessons and values passing from one generation to the next. Hello, little Eleanor, I whispered. You come from a line of strong women who know that true worth isn't measured by job titles or bank accounts, but by integrity, perseverance, and kindness. As I gently rocked my namesake, I noticed Vanessa watching us with tears in her eyes. Thank you, she said softly, for everything, for raising Robert to be the man he is, for showing me what real strength looks like, for giving us a foundation to build our family on. In that moment, holding my granddaughter while looking at my son and daughter-in-law, I felt the culmination of my life's true work. Not the property empire I'd built or the investments I'd grown, but the values I'd maintained and passed along despite society's contrary pressures. 6 months later, we celebrated little Eleanor's christening in the garden of my former home, now Robert and Vanessa's family home. The modest house had been refreshed but maintained its character, a testament to the young couple's commitment to substance over appearance. During the reception, I overheard Dr. Taylor speaking to a colleague, not realizing I was nearby. My son-in-law's mother, remarkable woman, built a real estate empire while working as a cleaning professional, taught me more about authentic success than my 40 years in medicine. His sincerity was evident, demonstrating how profoundly perspectives can shift when we open ourselves to reconsidering our assumptions. As guests mingled in the backyard where Robert had once played, Martha Whitmore approached me, champagne glass in hand. "Full circle, isn't it?" she observed. "From cleaning houses to ensure your son's future to watching him raise his daughter in the home you provided. Life has a way of creating meaningful patterns if we pay attention." I agreed. "Will you tell her the whole story?" Martha asked, nodding toward baby Eleanor, who was being passed among adoring relatives. "About the cleaning lady who secretly owned half of Denver." I smiled, watching as Vanessa gently reclaimed her daughter from an overenthusiastic aunt. "I won't need to. Her parents will raise her understanding that all honest work has dignity. That true character isn't determined by occupation or wealth." "And they learned that from you," Martha noted. "Sometimes the most important lessons take the longest to teach," I replied, "and sometimes they require unexpected methods." Later that evening, as twilight settled over the garden and guests departed, I found myself alone with my granddaughter. Robert and Vanessa were seeing off the last visitors, and I had volunteered for baby duty. "Your grandmother has a secret to share," I whispered to the drowsy infant in my arms. "The most valuable things I own aren't buildings or companies. They're the calluses on these hands from years of honest work, the wisdom gained from being underestimated. The satisfaction of knowing your father grew into a man who judges people by their character, not their job title." Little Eleanor gazed up at me with solemn eyes, as if absorbing every word. "You'll grow up with advantages your father didn't have," I continued softly. "But I hope you'll also inherit his compassion, his work ethic, his integrity. Those are the true family treasures worth far more than any property or investment portfolio. Robert found us like that. Grandmother whispering life wisdom to granddaughter in the fading light." He slipped onto the porch swing beside me, his presence a comfortable silence. "What are you two conspiring about?" he asked eventually. "I'm sharing investment advice," I replied with a smile, "starting her financial education early." He chuckled. "Just make sure you include the part about the value of cleaning toilets properly. That seems to be a family tradition now, along with owning the building where the toilets are located," I added dryly. We shared a laugh, comfortable in the legacy we were both extending and reshaping. As the stars emerged above us, I felt a profound sense of completion. My journey from struggling widow to secret millionaire had reached a fitting conclusion. Not in wealth or recognition, but in values successfully transmitted to the next generation, and now to the generation beyond. "Mum." Robert's voice broke into my thoughts. "Thank you not just for the house or the business support or everything material, but for showing all of us what really matters." "You're welcome, son," I replied, shifting his sleeping daughter into his arms. "Just remember to pass it on. We will," he promised, gazing down at his namesake. Little Eleanor will grow up knowing that her grandmother was never just the cleaning lady. She was the woman who showed us all that true dignity comes from how you live, not what you own. As I watched my son cradling his daughter in the home where I had raised him, I knew that some legacies transcend bank accounts and property deeds. My greatest achievement wasn't the empire I'd built while scrubbing floors, but the values I'd polished to a shine and passed down. Values that would endure long after the buildings I owned had crumbled to dust. In that quiet moment, I felt the profound truth that had guided my life's unusual path. We are not defined by our jobs or our wealth, but by our integrity, our compassion, and our willingness to see the inherent worth in every person, whether they're cleaning a house or owning it. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them.